Welcome back to Real Talk with Brian and Dan.
I'm Brian.
Yes, and I'm Dan. Our next guests are Michael Dolan and Stacia Fisher of CrossFit Issaquah. Now, in full disclosure, CrossFit Issaquah has been my home since they were founded in 2018, and I've known Michael and Stacia from the CrossFit community since about 2012, 2013, and Stacia's when you started, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Michael and Stacia's goal has always been to provide people with safe, exciting, and effective program that yields progress year-round. What separates CrossFit Issaquah from other gyms is the calculated scientific approach that they take towards programming. They have a combined method of training principles from the most renowned strength and conditioning coaches in the world, and put that into group training atmosphere, and it produces results. From the beginning athlete to competitive athlete. At CrossFit Issaquah, they aim to change the way people talk about, quote-unquote, doing CrossFit. The client and their long-term process come before anything else. There's no reason that everyone shouldn't have the body they truly want. Please welcome Michael and Stacia to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Glad to be here.
Welcome, Michael and Stacia. As we get started, tell us a bit about you and your hobbies and interests.
Well, this is Stacia, and I'll say first off that I love CrossFit, obviously. It's a hobby. It's also become a small business for me and for Mike. But I've also worked in healthcare for about 15 years, and through that experience, had the opportunity to see how people's lifestyle choices had affected their health. And so I decided to prioritize my health and fitness and found CrossFit in 2013 after I had my boys. I have twin boys, so I guess I would put
Also
that
your hobbies and
in
interests.
the hobby and interest category as well.
Right? You're three boys. Don't forget
Yes.
Cam.
And
Let's
my
not
husband.
forget Cam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, what do you do when you're not at the gym?
Yeah, I'm a pretty basic guy. I like, fantasy football. I like nerding out on gym stuff, so I like researching. You know, I think that's why I got into this as a coach, was because I just like the human body and, learning more about it and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty boring from a what do I do outside of the gym standpoint, but...
Because he's there all the time.
I kind of am, yeah.
Yeah.
So...
basketball?
Yeah, I
You're
love
a big
basketball.
LeBron James fan,
I
right?
love LeBron. Yeah.
Yeah, like I heard you making excuses for him this morning.
I was. Yeah, we have a Michael Jordan guy in the gym, so it's like we go back and forth. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so it's a show about real estate. Stacia, what's your home story growing up?
So I have kind of a claim to fame story. So I grew up in Northwest Montana, and I lived in a town where they made a lot of movies because it was scenic and beautiful. And so one summer we lived with our grandmother while Steven Spielberg rented our house for a summer. So that was my claim to fame story.
What is it? A river runs through it?
It was
filmed there?
Always. Do you
Always.
remember with the forest firefighting? It was like airplanes and
I'm sure I might remember
it's
that.
a good one.
I'll have to
You
go
have
back
to
and
look
watch
it up.
now.
Yeah.
But he wasn't filming in your house.
No.
Just living there.
Just living there. Yeah.
Very good.
It's still a cool story, though.
Yeah.
It is.
Very cool.
And he left us a Nintendo. That's like
What?
right when Nintendo
There you
came
go.
out. Yeah.
64?
No, the
No, the
original
basic
with the
OG.
power pad
Yeah.
and like Duck Hunt. Do you remember
Oh,
Duck
yeah,
Hunt?
yeah,
Duck
yeah.
Hunt. Nice.
That's great.
Good times.
So share with our listeners, what is CrossFit, and tell us your story about how each of you got involved with CrossFit.
Yeah, I was a overweight late teenager. I was 19, 20, and I was kind of just not doing a lot of good with my life, getting into trouble. And I was at a Globo gym just lifting weights, bicep curls and bench press. Like,
What's a Globo gym?
that'd be something like, I don't know if I can say
Big box?
brand names.
Big
Yeah,
box?
like with machines and whatnot, like
Gotcha.
a Golds or something
Golds,
like that.
okay.
Yeah. And I thought I knew what I was doing, and I was doing my own programming, writing my own workouts. And then one of my buddies was like, "Hey, I've got this friend in a barn, and we're doing these crazy workouts. You should come by and check it out." I had nothing to lose at that point, and so I went, and it was the worst thing I ever did from a difficulty standpoint.
Oh, okay.
And I loved it, So from then, I was just, that's kind of how I got involved. And then I met Stacia after I was working at the gym for like a year. And
I had always been into sports when I was a kid, played basketball too, ran track, all that good stuff. And then in graduate school, I started doing long distance running because it's free and you can do it anywhere. And so after that, after I had my boys, I was kind of looking for something that would be like quick and effective because I didn't have a lot of time, but I wanted to stay in shape. And I was working at the ER, and one of the docs was like, "Oh, you should try CrossFit. You know, I've heard really good things about it." So I started going to CrossFit Issaquah, or the old CrossFit Issaquah, which used to be called Gravity Janes.
Right.
Shout out.
Yeah,
Shout
that's
out.
where we all met.
That is.
Yes. And it was great. Totally transformed, my physique, and I felt better, felt healthier, was better. I better manage stress at work when I'm working out consistently. So,
Yeah, for me, the wife was like, "Hey, they're throwing these tires around the corner, like over there in Issaquah. They're flipping tires. I thought that might be something that would be you'd like." I was like, "Oh yeah, let's flip tires. Let's do that."
Because you're like manly man.
I realized how inept I was as far as full body strength, and that's a cool thing. I think we all come from very different aspects, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
So Ben, my son, his great business plan is CrossFit Landscape. Get paid twice. Have people haul the dirt. Have the,
Totally.
Yeah.
Here's the wad today.
Probably
my
onto
husband
something.
calls that yard wad.
Yard wad.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty. That could work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's legit.
Well, there's actually, I went on the internet joking with him. There's a place in San Francisco that's doing that.
Oh, is that
There's a
right?
gym there that it's, get paid twice.
That's it. Awesome. Pay for my
should've thought
membership.
of that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. So, what does a typical class look like?
Well, on a normal day, you come in, there's a 10-minute warm-up. Everyone kind of comes in, does it on their own. And then after that warm-up, I talk about the workout for the day, right? And usually it's not interesting, and it's, my cadence is very boring. And then
other members will like chime in.
they kind of troll me. And then once we're done with that 5-minute segment, people usually, they do like a strength segment. So they'll lift for 15 to 20 minutes. And we watch over them as coaches, make sure that they are doing everything correctly and technically sound. And then after that, we usually do a conditioning portion, which is maybe like 15 to 20 minutes. And that's, I think, what people associate more with CrossFit, which is like the getting your burn on sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing that's nice is every day is different. We don't do the same workout 2 days ever, really.
No.
So there's a lot of variety. It keeps it interesting. I also personally, when I take the classes, I like it because somebody else is telling me what to do.
Right.
I don't need one more thing to think about during the day. Like, I like to have somebody else tell me, okay, do this, this,
Show
and
up,
this.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have to think about it.
Well, I think it's an interesting perspective to take. If the listeners can't see Mike, and I've known Mike for many years, when he first started, he was very strong and bulky. And then at some point, you decided to make a change, not just in working out, but how you lived your life. Can you tell the listeners more about that and how that plays into CrossFit Issaquah's philosophy?
Yeah, man, that's interesting you say that. I think in the beginning when I was bigger and bulkier, the programming of the gym or my interests kind of reflected how I was, like the shape I was in. I had you guys doing more strength stuff, and I was very into that. And honestly, I got made fun of a lot by my close friends on how I looked. And I thought I was like buff, air quotes, right? But really, it took one of those close friends being like, dude, you kind of look disgusting. And then at that point,
That's
harsh.
a good friend.
no,
Hey,
hey,
wow.
I'm telling you,
You know
man,
who your
that's
friends
like, that's what was the turning point for me. So I just started to pay attention to my nutrition more and stopped eating like a moron. And then, once that kind of dialed in, the weight came off fast. And, it's hard for people because they lose weight sometimes and then they gain it right back.
Yeah.
And I've had a little bit of that throughout my life, yo-yoing like that. And, I've been fortunate to be able to keep it off now for 4 or 5 years. But I think that's what Stacia and I work towards, is creating an environment where we can hopefully educate people to where they know how to lose weight and keep it off the right way. Because I feel like we've both been able to get where we want to go goal-wise with our bodies for the most part, right? There's always something to be strived for, but does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a question. And I'm thinking to myself here is, who's CrossFit for? On a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of fitness, I'm almost a 1. And I think of myself as CrossFit would be so not for me. But what about that? What about a situation where somebody really is not in good shape?
Yeah, I would say there's a great quote that says CrossFit, the prescription is the same, the dose is different. So you can modify any workout for anybody's ability. And so whether you're doing push-ups to a box or push-ups on the floor or push-ups with a band around your back, there's, a way to make it harder for people who are fitter, or there's a way to make it more accessible for people who are just starting out. So I really think that that's something where, Mike has been really great about, like, being thoughtful about meeting people where they're at and helping them reach their goals wherever their starting point is.
And I know we've all three of us that participate in this community, we've all seen people and where they were. I mean, we were talking about tossing tires, and they took a video of me doing that. And I don't know what happened to Gravity Jane's website, but it was on the Facebook page. And I remember a couple years later looking at it, going, man, I was in terrible shape, right? And it's just incremental change. And that's what the community's about, is actually just coming and meeting you where you're at. And then helping you go.
That's great.
My life has gone up and down, and there are times where it gets super busy and then I can't get to the gym, and I know that I'm going to pay for it. But the reality is actually I'm still surprised that having missed that gap, that I still am conditioned enough to actually come back and get back into shape quicker.
Yeah.
So why do people choose CrossFit Issaquah?
I think for our playlists or music.
Oh, no, don't get me started.
I would say the same thing. It's a pretty nice mix, yeah. But no, I mean, I think without talking about other gyms in the area, there's just every gym has to have a certain approach. And I think if you look at it from a volume standpoint, which is how much work you're fitting into the hour, we make it a point to maximize what people are getting within the hour. I've been to gyms before where you'll come in, you'll warm up for 10 minutes, and then you'll do like a stretching segment for 5-10 minutes after that. And then you'll do barbell work where you need to warm up again for another 5-10 minutes. And by that point, 30 minutes of the hour is gone. So when we started, I was like, look, I'm going to try to put as much stuff as I can that's going to get people visible aesthetic results within that hour. And I think certain people like that, and it's not how typical CrossFit goes. So the person who wants that typical CrossFit is going to come in and be like, this is weird. But, the people who really understand what we're going for with the volume approach, they like that. And they like the results they get comparatively to another gym, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
So since you've been a part of the community for a long time, then you decided about a year and a half ago to take on the ownership. What's your biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge. I think just kind of like what we're doing now, like getting your name out there and getting the idea out there to maybe people who haven't even thought about CrossFit as an option for them, or they think like, oh, that sounds really hard, kind of demystifying. Yeah. So I think that's probably.
Well, the good news is there's plenty of parking, CrossFit Issaquah,
Yes.
and they're building a brewery right next door.
Yes. Yeah.
Which might change the parking thing.
Yeah, no. Well, not at 6 a.m.
Right.
So,
Yeah, when you go, it's great.
True.
So,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Day drinking.
begin my day. Begin my day at CrossFit and then
Walk
finish
across
it.
the
At,
parking
Walk right
lot.
over.
no,
yeah.
no, go to work
Perfect.
then. Jeez,
Sure.
honey, honestly, I never do that.
Carbs are good post-workout.
Carbs are good.
Yeah. If there's a time to do it, man.
So what's the most rewarding part about running a CrossFit gym?
Without sounding super cliche, I think it's those moments where it's weird, man. We were doing a ton of like knee and quad prehab stuff, right? Which is like so people don't get hurt. And it was in the program, and it was usually built into the warm-ups. And I think a lot of people were coming in, they're like, why are we squatting like this? We've never done this before. This is so weird. Like we're only going a quarter of the way down. And I was like, just trust me, if you guys are going to be squatting full depth, you're going to want that tendon and ligament strength in your knee. And one of these gals came up to me and she was like, oh my God, me and my boyfriend went on a hike this weekend, and the walk down, my knee didn't hurt at all. And it usually bugs me the whole time. And I was like, oh my God, like that was like the best thing that anyone's ever said to me. That's such a little thing, but that's that's like on a low scale, right? Usually people are coming up to you saying, hey, you changed my life, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or what, whatever. You live to see those changes in other people, I think.
Yeah,
right?
hearing the success stories and like seeing it translate in people's everyday life, like, is just the best part.
You know, there's a book called The Power of Habit, and it talks about keystone habits. And working out is one of those keystone habits, because what happens the day before you work out, like CrossFit, you have to take care of your body. You can't be putting any kind of food into it. So then what happens? You start eating better, right? And then your endorphins are up, so you're having that, and your sleep is better. I mean, it's one of those keystone habits that you can't go away from. And that's why it's one of those things that the community part, we haven't talked a lot about that. Tell me more about the community at CrossFit Issaquah, the people that you interact with.
I think it's extremely supportive. And that is one of the parts that for me keeps me coming every day, because I look forward to seeing the people that I usually work out with. And I think that's become kind of a thing. There's groups of people who always take the same class at the same time. And then some of them do proof of CrossFit photos and, post them and, but it kind of becomes like your family and your home away from home. And obviously, if you have a habit like that and you actually look forward to going and spending time with the people there, and people are really positive and supportive, it's going to be much more likely that you're going to go back.
Awesome.
So what's the atmosphere like in a class?
We try to keep it loose. I'm not big on a military disciplinarian style type thing. So I'm very laid back. Stacia's kind of the same way, but we like to make sure everyone's safe and try to encourage it. We have so many different age ranges of people there. You have to be open and welcoming. So
yeah. You've got from teenagers all the way up to seniors.
Yep.
All right, so we're about out of time. So how can people learn more about CrossFit Issaquah?
So they can check out our website, thecrossfitissaqua.com. You can message us through the website. You can sign up for a free trial class through the website. Everyone, your first class is free, so you're always welcome to come check us out.
Awesome. Michael, Stacia, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks, guys.
What I love about CrossFit is it's not just working out, it's a community. All right. So you are listening to Real Talk with Brian and Dan at 1150 KKNW. After the break, we have some more Real Talk as Brian drops a final thought. We'll be right back.